Hi everyone. Okay, in today's video I just want to talk about 3 films from one director, and that director is Charles Burnett. So Charles Burnett, his films are going to get talked about more, I think, because his very first feature, which I have here on DVD, Killer of Sheep, is going to be coming to the Criterion Collection in May of this year. And then the third film that I'm going to talk about is going to be a future release for Kino Lorber. But yeah, Killer of Sheep, 1978, Charles Burnett's first feature, made on a very low budget, in black and white, and really a fascinating kind of neo-realist style to this. So it's set in the Watts community of Los Angeles and focuses on a family who are living in poverty and with the sort of local crime that's in the area. Although this isn't a crime film, it really does look at the hardships of life, and we focus on Stan, who is a guy who works in a slaughterhouse, hence this being called Killer of Sheep, and how he effectively is numbed by his conditions into not being able to properly feel that much with his family. So he has a wife and a child, and he gets these moments of solace, perhaps where it might be just holding a warm cup to his cheek or having a little dance with his wife, but he's not really feeling a hell of a lot. And then also not just with his family, but just because of the burden of everything else that is going on in his community. So it is a impoverished area and there is crime and little in the way of getting out of all of this. We have lots of children in this film who are seen sort of playing around in the rubble and building sites that are in the area, and often jumping over the tops of buildings as well, quite dangerous. So yeah, a lot of this, like I say, is filmed in a very sort of documentary kind of style, but it also has a sort of poetic quality to it as well. But yeah, beautifully shot in black and white. It is very fragmented in terms of its style, but yeah, definitely a fascinating first feature. Also incorporates some nice musical interludes in it as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed Killer of Sheep. Now, Killer of Sheep was released in 1978, but pretty much disappeared until it got restored in 2007. And a similar kind of fate befell Charles Burnett's next feature, which was in 1983, and it's also included on this DVD set that I have here, and it's My Brother's Wedding. So My Brother's Wedding, he managed to release this at festivals at the time, but it wasn't a final cut. It didn't get great notices at the time, and again, just kind of disappeared out of view for a number of decades. But yeah, My Brother's Wedding, again, is a really fascinating film, this time shot in colour, and again, focusing on the sort of poverty lifestyle that's there in Los Angeles, and this time we're looking at a guy who works at a dry cleaners with his family, and he's kind of a bit of a drifter, not quite sure what direction he has in life, and trying to come to decisions on what to do in terms of supporting his brother, who is going to be getting married to a quite sort of a snooty upper class woman that he doesn't approve of, or spending time with a friend who has come out of jail who clearly might be a bad influence. So yeah, again, we've got a really fascinating style to this one. I'm not sure I enjoyed it quite as much as Killer of Sheep, but certainly a worthwhile watch. And then I want to jump forward to 1999 to a film that I've just seen, and it's called The Annihilation of Fish. So we've had The Killer of Sheep in 1978, and now we've got The Annihilation of Fish. So strange title, but Fish in this context is the name of a gentleman who is played by the great James Earl Jones. And this, I absolutely love this film. So what we have with The Annihilation of Fish is a really, really touching drama that concerns James Earl Jones' character, being this guy Fish, who has been released from a mental institution, and he is a guy who very much quite literally wrestles with hidden demons. So he literally is wrestling in his apartment and stuff with these demons that he constantly sees and is constantly troubled by. he manages to get accommodation at a local boarding house, which is run by Margot Kidder, the great actress who played Lois Lane in the Christopher Reeve Superman films. So she's an aged widow in this film, and her quirk is that she tends to go outside and water the weeds, and we get to learn that those weeds are where her husband had fallen to his death some years ago. And then coming into this boarding house as well, we have the third character, an absolutely terrific performance from Lynn Redgrave, playing an alcoholic woman who is prone to having outbursts of operatic song, and she has come to this boarding house because she has failed to get anyone to be able to marry her to the ghost of Puccini that she constantly has with her. So yes, the great opera singer, she thinks she has been attached to Puccini, but no one is interested in actually marrying her to him. And so yes, she has her own struggles as well. So we've got these three characters very much with mental health challenges, and they are getting to know each other within this boarding house. But what's really, really touching about this film is that, yes, these are extremely eccentric characters who have these very noticeable quirks, but as they get to know each other, it's very much a question of bonding and connecting over difficulties, learning how to help the other person with that difficulty, and then also embrace those challenges as well, and even come to terms with wanting to actually live with that person with those quirks, not necessarily to get rid of them. So yeah, I found this film really, really touching. It's absolutely exceptional performances from James Earl Jones and Lynn Redgrave. So again, when this one came out in 1999, apparently it did get quite negative reception to it. People just didn't really quite understand what was going on here. But like I say, this is a really touching film. So yeah, you've got to really embrace the eccentricity of the performances that are in this film. And if you go with that, then I think you'll have a really good time with it. Yeah, I loved it. And just on a slightly separate note, Killer of Sheep and My Brother's Wedding were both written by Charles Burnett as well as directed by him. But when it came to The Annihilation of Fish, that was a film that had a screenplay by Anthony C. Winkler. And I looked up Anthony Winkler, and he only had one other film to his credit, and quite an interesting one, actually. It's 1991's The Lunatic, which is filmed in Jamaica. It's actually produced by Chris Blackwell of Island Records. And again, we have a character in it who talks to, not demons as such, but he talks to the trees, he talks to cows. He has his own sort of mental health struggles there, but that film is much more focused on Jamaican culture, and it has a co-starring role of Julie T. Wallace, who some people might remember from being in Life and Loves of a She-Devil. And the other interesting thing about The Lunatic is that it's directed by Lol Cream. So if that name doesn't ring any bells to you, then perhaps Godley and Cream do, because they were responsible for some great songs and music videos, and Godley and Cream were also originally part of 10cc, and so responsible for one of the greatest songs of all time, in my opinion, which is I'm Not in Love. Okay, so that's just a quick run through of those three films, but yeah, definitely look out for The Killer of Sheep when it gets its Criterion release in May, and absolutely look out for a future Kino Lorber release of The Annihilation of Fish. I think the film at the moment is getting a few screenings at various art house cinemas, but I think a physical release from Kino Lorber is hopefully going to be on the way soon. I managed to watch the film here in Canada on the streaming service Canopy. Okay, so let me know what you think about Charles Burnett and his films if you've seen them. There is another significant one that's already in the Criterion collection, and that's To Sleep with Anger, starring Danny Glover. Thanks very much for joining me on this video. Hopefully I'll see you again. All the best to you. Bye-bye.